when we're looking at the federal government's budget and the spending, we've been saying that for years and years, that the spending is out of control on the federal level. Do you think there's an opportunity for us to retake back the appropriations process, maybe do that a little differently, or what are some good ways that we can reassess the federal budget so that we can finally make some progress from that fiscal standpoint?
Yeah, it really is unfortunate. I mean, on any given year, I and my colleagues on both the House and the Senate, we vote on roughly 30% of what gets spent at the federal level.
Wow.
And the rest of it happens automatically.
Right.
I mean, granted, things like Social Security and Medicare are set up, people pay into, but they don't pay enough in for what the typical person draws out.
Sure.
But then all the other so-called entitlements, which are really just social welfare programs, it's the Medicaid, it's the food stamp food stamp program. It's all of these programs that people just automatically happen, and we don't get a vote on it. And at the same time, you know, we're not following the traditional regular order that you think of when you think about the government process. You know, we all learned in our civics classes that, you know, how do you pass a bill? It goes to the committee and it gets debated in one chamber, gets voted on the floor, some amendments get brought up in that process, goes to the other chamber, maybe it gets amended as well, gets voted on, and then once a bill that's agreed to between the two chambers goes to the president's desk and the president signs it and it becomes law. In reality, we're not doing that. We're not running bills through the committee process. We're not following regular order so we can have that debate. It's been a long time that process has starting to break down, but we've really seen it terrible the last 2 years under majority Democrat rule in both the House and the Senate and the White House. And so basically we're not doing the job of the American people because we can't express their views, express their wishes. We can't be representatives of them. Net result is, I mean, we're spending out of control because of the special interests that are driving that.
Yeah. And another piece to that puzzle, you said a few things that I think also relates to the regulatory process as well. And you talk about things that are driving up costs or you know, the red tape that is hurting our economy and the supply chain, but costs for consumers, costs for businesses, and being driven honestly by special interests where you guys maybe could have perhaps more of a say with that. Talk to me about the regulatory process and what can we do better on the red tape?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's a big impact on individuals and on businesses in terms of having taxes.
Yep.
But almost as big an impact, if not more, is the regulatory burden that gets placed on individuals, on business community, and over the years, the executive branch has become much more powerful than it was ever intended to be by founding fathers.
Sure.
You know, we do have 3 branches of government, and the intention was that there would be some checks and balances through that. But they weren't necessarily designed to be 3 equal branches of government. I mean, the legislative branch was supposed to be the most important. Sure. And focus on what's the will of the people and what's important from a state standpoint, what's important from the individuals that live across the country. And we saw it during the Trump administration when they went out and attacked the regulatory burden, and we saw how the economy took off.
Yeah.
Between the rework that we did on the taxes, on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and cutting the number of regulations that actually came through with the Trump administration, we saw a lot of things that just juiced the economy and made it work. And so we had more jobs going, we had growing wages. I mean, that was the first time we had wage growth in decades for the American people. And you didn't have all this inflation that you're having now under the Biden administration.